Guys, focus for a moment. Completely new visuals of Atlas have just surfaced, and they might transform everything we believe we understood about this interstellar object. These 11th-hour observations uncover something truly unanticipated. Atlas stays as a single structure and shows several jets directed both toward the star at the heart of our system and in the reverse direction. And a few of them appear surprisingly well-focused. Exactly, solid, sharply outlined jets that do not act like the soft, diffuse tail normally expected from a comet. Who recorded these visuals? Recent material includes contributions from astrophotographers such as Sadaru Murata, Francois Kugal, and observations arriving from Japan and Thailand. These pictures were captured at various times between November 11th and November 17th, 2025. Yet all of them indicate the same puzzle. Something very unusual is occurring with 3 Atlas. But what do these visuals actually imply? Experts, hobbyists, and respected investigators are arranging the pieces on the table, and those pieces don't align with a straightforward natural comet interpretation. The scientific world has already released technical reviews detailing what has been detected, and stronger speculations have started gaining traction. Today, we're going to break all of this down. The data, the conflicts, and the proposals that cannot simply be waved aside. Here are the most significant elements shown in the visuals. Several sharply defined jets, some oriented toward the star at the middle of our system, others aimed the opposite direction, including a very distinct anti-tail. In multiple stack captures, Atlas appears crisp while nearby stars reveal typical long-exposure streaks. This alone is odd. A moving object should exhibit similar blurring when the exposure duration is extended, yet Atlas frequently shows none of that blurring. The coma, the envelope around the object, reveals shift in intensity and even hue across various images and time-lapse. At times more orange, at times greener, at times fainter. Experienced watchers, including high-level amateur astronomers who were formerly doubtful, expressed difficulty fitting this pattern into established rules for cometary nuclei. And there's additional detail. Rotation estimates indicate a cycle of roughly 16 hours. Still, even with this rotation, the jets stay orderly, not drawn out into a spiral, as one would expect. All of this builds a picture that simply does not resemble an ordinary comet. And this is precisely where the dilemma intensifies. Normally, in comets, gas and dust jets generated by sublimation tend to get distorted by the combined action of nucleus rotation and solar wind. The outcome is usually a blurry, scattered formation that fails to preserve sharp patterns once the nucleus rotates. In Atlas's situation, however, the jets seem extremely sharp, and in some records, they stretch across vast distances without dispersing, as would normally happen. This presents important questions about the velocity and makeup of the material and the forces producing these jets. Are we viewing volatile pockets carefully distributed along the surface? Could pieces be evaporating and generating solid-seeming structures behind them? Or are we witnessing something that goes beyond ordinary cometary behavior? Recent studies uncovered figures that make a natural interpretation even harder. The observed brightness produced through relatively large dust grains would require mass loss on a massive scale, and, in energy terms, demand a source that doesn't match the estimated size of the object. Put plainly, for certain dust particles or fragments to produce the intensity recorded, Atlas would need to shed material at a rate demanding more energy than the surface of a small body with a diameter derived from high-resolution imagery could supply via irradiation from the star at the core of our system alone. This doesn't imply natural explanations are eliminated, but it does mean that any natural scenario must confront difficult numerical constraints and explain how a relatively compact body can generate such extended jets without disintegrating. Considering these figures and the behavior observed, some have suggested extreme possibilities. One of them, technical and straightforward, is the idea of artificial propulsion. Focus jets operating like thrusters capable of producing far stronger impulse than ordinary outgassing. If engineered thrusters were aligned so that one jet faced toward the star at the center of our system, the outcome could be a controlled acceleration shifting the object away from gravitational pull in a manner inconsistent with natural travel. In simple terms, intentional maneuvers. Keep in mind, this remains a proposal, not a final statement. Still, The steadiness of the jets and their resistance to dispersion have made this concept reasonable enough to be seriously considered by some researchers. Another suggestion, more complex and less instinctive, is the idea that Atlas might be a plasma-based entity, meaning a non-organic life form composed of plasma patterns or electromagnetic frameworks. This idea proposes the object might preserve self-organized formations in empty space, interact with electromagnetic fields and particle bursts, adjust its appearance, intensity, hue, and outline in response to space-based triggers, and gather information from its environment, essentially functioning as a living probe. If this seems unlikely, remember that our concept of life is tightly tied to carbon chemistry. The concept of a parallel energetic biosphere would require broadening that definition, and if accurate, it would represent one of the greatest scientific turning points in all of history. While scientific proposals accumulate, there's also a public struggle over the narrative. Official sources repeating comet continuously, commentators alleging image withholding, channels promoting conspiracy claims, and amateur observers reaching completely different interpretations. Some influential experts attempt to align the data with natural explanations, mentioning, for example, unusually large dust particles that might clarify the anti-tail. Others emphasize inconsistencies, color fluctuations, irregular polarization, a trajectory emerging from Sagittarius, and calculated approaches to planets that appear more than mere chance. The outcome is a volatile mixture. Serious research existing alongside speculation, while the public tries to determine what is actual evidence, what is story shaping, and what is selective silence. Among the voices that have become prominent lately are skilled researchers and respected amateurs. Some pointed out visuals with jets that appear to switch on and off, apparently selectively, time-lapse where the coma shifts its position and hue within short spans. Skeptical viewers who, for the first time, admitted they cannot explain what they witnessed, which alone indicate a phenomenon that surpasses simple interpretations. These accounts reinforce the feeling of urgency. This is not just online commentary. It is repeated documentation by professionals and amateurs with technical skill. In reaction, the scientific sector has outlined solid research paths. High-resolution spectroscopy to calculate jet speeds and differentiate natural outgassing from possible artificial jets at much greater velocities. Plasma modeling to examine whether self-organized structures can endure and remain intact in interstellar environments. Reviews of past records to search for similar signatures that may have been overlooked. Coordinated observations from multiple observatories using different wavelengths to clarify composition and light polarization. If these efforts proceed in the coming weeks and months, we may tighten the range of possibilities and perhaps move closer to a solid explanation. Even so, inconsistencies persist. Why has an object with such energetic jets not fractured during perihelion? How do we account for sudden color variations without an obvious chemical driver? How do we match rotation calculations with jets that fail to unwind into spirals? Why does there appear to be hesitation from certain official outlets to release some visuals at the same rate as the amateur community? These are core questions that need direct answers, and for now, they only intensify the enigma. If Atlas truly is a technological construct or a plasma-based living form, the consequences are vast. Our concept of what moves between star systems would have to broaden. Methods of detecting and interpreting signals from space would need rethinking. Immediate global cooperation would be necessary to observe, model, and potentially intercept signals or maneuvers. And perhaps most significantly, we would have to confront the possibility that the universe contains intelligences or processes outside our familiar categories. But these are hypothetical outcomes. To reach them, we must validate evidence step by step, discard incompatible ideas, and preserve scientific humility. Here is a list of the 12 irregularities that do not vanish under superficial explanations. Commit them to memory. Circulate them. Demand clarity. 1. Retrograde path aligned with ecliptic plane. 2. Sunward jets, anti-tail, clearly not a geometric distortion. 3. Nucleus mass considerably larger than earlier interstellar visitors, while still traveling rapidly. 4. Arrival timing that permits close passes to Mars, Venus, and Jupiter. 5. Gas plume containing an unusually elevated nickel level. 6. plume containing very little water, roughly 4% by mass. 7. Extreme, negative, unmatched optical polarization. 8. Arrival direction close to the WOW radio source. 9. Swift brightening and a progressively bluer shade bluer than comparison star. 10. Jets requiring an absorbing area incompatible with the deduced nucleus size. 11. Non-gravitational acceleration, implying a massive mass reduction of about 13% with no observable debris cloud. 12. Narrow jets preserving alignment for millions of kilometers despite rotation. Each point is significant. Combined, they form a collection of anomalies urging widespread, open investigation. Folks, what the recent visuals of Atlas reveal is unmistakable. Its behavior does not settle easily inside the framework of natural comets. We have several hypotheses on the table, ranging from exotic particles to engineered propulsion to plasma formations, yet none is final. What we do have is a steady set of factual irregularities recorded by numerous experts and captured using different equipment, and that indicates the narrative of Atlas is nowhere near finished. Now, I want your thoughts. Which of these anomalies drew your attention most strongly? And which idea seems the most coherent at this stage? Leave your comment. Subscribe to the channel, activate notifications, and stay tuned because the coming weeks are going to be intense. See you in the next